Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about something that Michael Crichton added into his second Jurassic Park novel. So when the original Jurassic Park movie came out in 1993, it was a pretty gigantic hit. When it was initially released, it was actually the highest grossing film of all time and would stay in that position until James Cameron's Titanic would come out 4 years later. Of course, with the colossal success of the first movie and Spielberg's own setup for a sequel, a follow-up film was inevitably going to happen. Universal had already purchased the rights to do 5 more films in the JP series, so the first movie's box office numbers just guaranteed Jurassic Park 2 as a sure thing. However, the setup of Dennis Nedry's Lost Barbasol can would not be the basis of the second film in the franchise, which was what Spielberg had initially planned. Instead, he would opt to direct a very loose adaptation of Michael Crichton's own sequel novel, The Lost World, which went off in an entirely new direction. Now, one of the most interesting things about the second Jurassic novel is the fact that in many ways, it's not only a sequel to the first book that preceded it, but it's also a pseudo-continuation of the 1993 film adaptation as well. And what I mean by that is, the continuity of the book is undeniably a follow-up to the first novel, but the contents inside of it give several tiny winks and nods to the readers that happen to see the first movie. Some good examples include things like Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler being written into having a previous relationship, despite the fact that this wasn't in the first book and only appeared in the movie adaptation, as well as a scene in which a paleontologist famously tries Grant's method of remaining motionless in front of a T-Rex, only to get ripped apart and eaten for trying it. The book even starts off with a quote by Ian Malcolm that says, "Sequelae are inherently unpredictable." Due to the fact that Malcolm actually died in the previous novel, I think that intro really says a lot about the story ahead. But out of all of these tiny Easter eggs for the Steven Spielberg film that play out in the Lost World book, what I find to be the greatest is by far the quick little line of dialogue that reveals to the audience what happened to Donald Gennaro. If you've read through the first book, you'll already know that the Crichton version of the InGen lawyer was actually a radically different character. Much of what we saw in the movie adaptation was in fact the personality of a park worker by the name of Ed Regis, whose likeness was merged with Gennaro to keep the number of characters down to a minimum. So in the novel, Donald Gennaro actually gets in the helicopter with all of the rest of the survivors at the end of the story, and even makes it off of the island with little to no injuries to speak of. He actually lives in the original novel. But as we all know, that is not what went down in the 1993 movie. Well, in a conversation between Lewis Dodson, George Basilton, and a Biosyn spy named James, the subject of Jurassic Park survivors comes up during their secretive meeting. Dodson asks James what happened to everyone that got off of Nublar before the bombs went off. And this is where we learn that Ellie Sattler had broken up with Dr. Grant and gotten married to a man named Raymond. James goes on to further say that most of the people involved in the theme park were deceased. John Hammond and Dennis Nedry had died on the island, but Donald Gennaro had passed away on a business trip, and that cause of death was revealed to be a nasty case of dysentery. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'll go ahead and read the general definition. Dysentery happens to be an infection of the intestines resulting in severe diarrhea with the presence of blood and mucus in the feces. So why is this such a cleverly written Easter egg? Well, how did Donald Gennaro die in the Jurassic Park movie? Leave it to Crichton to turn a self-referential toilet joke into an awesome bit of Jurassic Park lore. Most people unfortunately tend to overlook this bit of information because it goes by so quick, but I always thought it was a pretty funny wink to the audience. But that's just my own personal opinion on the Easter egg. If you've read through the Lost World novel, what do you personally think is the best little piece of meta material that most people tend to overlook? Is there anything else in the Lost World that you think people would get a kick out of if they've already seen the movie? I want to know because this book happens to be chock full of a ton of things that didn't make it into the 1997 film. Now, whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. Now, before I go, I want to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Just the fact that you guys watch these videos and support my content means the world to me, and I want to make sure that all of you never forget that. Now, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to watch today's video, and hope that you all had fun. I'll see you all in the next one, guys, and as always, take it easy.